Hey, welcome to the Practice Center, where we talk about all things
mindfulness, forgiveness, and attitudinal healing.
Yes, round two. I'm Joey still, and this is Noi. Noi, is there anything else you want to add? Because we started recording outside and now we're here. You've done some introduction, but since your move, have you thought of anything else that's important for us?
You know what I did forget to mention? I forgot to mention that I am a mindful forgiveness group facilitator. That was an important part of who I am that I did not mention.
You certainly are. All right, we started going off on kind of big systems things, but actually what I'm really interested in knowing is, what did you think when you were first introduced to mindfulness and forgiveness work? And why did you stay?
What did I think when I first was introduced? So I took, when I was introduced, it was a training that I was taking through one of the agencies that I did contract therapy work with. And it was just another thing I was doing to add to my resume because I like training. I like taking in knowledge. I like learning things, and I just like doing things. So I really, if I have to be completely honest, I thought, oh, I already did one of these, because I did it. And like about 6 years ago, I took a mindfulness training with Tao Le.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so that was the initial thought. I thought that was, I got it. I wanted to do it. I wanted it to be a change in my life, and I wasn't there yet. I did it through the training. But I don't know if there's a scale of mindfulness practice and ability, but I was on the negative side of that scale, to where sitting for 60 seconds was probably the most hardest thing in the world for me. Like literally, I was convinced that I was just not biologically built for this at all. But I got it. Like I understood, and there was moments of glimpse of like, wow, this is cool. I had moments of like enlightening, or whatever word you want to use for it, during that training 6 years ago, that made me feel like, yes, just do it. Even if it's just 60 seconds a day, just do it,
Yeah.
And then it didn't, right? I didn't stick with it. I actually got this chime
from her
at that training, and it's a little bit embarrassing to say, but literally came home and put it in my daughter's toy box.
Yeah.
It was like, or maybe I kept it for a little while, being like, oh yeah, and then like, a couple weeks I was like, okay, here, and I put it in her toy box. And then when I went to that mindfulness training 3 years ago, so was it 3 years ago? Yeah, something like that.
At the studio, so 2019.
Yeah. So or went to the facilitators training or something, rather, literally came and dug it out of my daughter's toy box 3 years later. And that's just an amazing piece of it to me. But so from that first training, it was like, so when I got the invitation for mindfulness forgiveness, it was kind of like okay, I know I need to be doing this stuff. I don't really need a training, because I already went to a training. I already know how important it is, and I already know what we're going to go through, but I do things, and that's what I do. So it's been a couple of years since I took a training. I'll just take another one to update it. Right. Did not, because the other one was a couple days, but it wasn't 6 weeks. I didn't understand that level. And it was definitely a little bit like, you got to be at every session. And I was just like, geez, okay. Like I did have a little bit of like, please, it's just mindfulness training, Sometimes I'm like, when a little bit of maybe opposition or something, when I have to be somewhere, I want to think of reasons why I don't really have to be. I probably will be there, but I want to always leave myself a door open just in case,
Yeah.
So then when I went, I actually enjoyed it. I think I enjoyed it. I mean, I enjoy trainings. I really do. I really enjoyed your energy. So that was nice. Like I can't really put my hand on what it was about it per se, but there was something that was intriguing. Cause that means a lot to me, because I'm just like that. I'm just like that. If trainers don't have my attention or something, then anyway, I enjoyed the first session. And then I think after a couple weeks, it got a little bit like, there were times when I went in and I just wanted to finish doing what I was doing right before I wanted to finish texting. I was in the middle of texting, and you're very strict on no phones. And it was just like, it was more of a hassle for me to have to be present in that moment.
Yes.
Than I felt the benefit was at that moment, you know. I think in general, I've always had a desire to feel better. Like I have always wanted to feel better.
Compared to what? How were you feeling? Because you were a professional, you were taking care of your business.
It felt messy. It felt chaotic. Like it felt like I should feel better now that I'm a professional, now that I'm an adult, now that I'm not in these problem situations that brought me pain at one point in my life, you know, now that I'm not living with my mom, now that I'm not using substances, like I should just feel better.
Yeah.
So how was I feeling? I always wanted to feel better. I'm getting back to the point. I always wanted to feel better than feeling like I'm constantly carrying this story. Like I wanted it to really feel like I was as happy or as fixed, as healed as I felt like I needed to present myself as a helper, right? I wanted my life at home not to be chaotic. Because there was, even though I wasn't in the addiction scene, even though I wasn't in domestic violence anymore, I still was in these disputes and this chaos and this just these blowouts just everywhere, you know, with myself, whether I'm mad at myself or I'm mad at my daughter or I'm mad at her father or I'm mad at my whatever it was. I was just constantly having that, and I wanted that to be better because I knew better than to do that, and I wanted to feel better.
It sounds like you had still a lot of anger or resentment that was bubbling out or spilling out into those areas with those people.
Yeah. And I don't think I really called it that, right? There was a lot of blame involved. So it's not like I didn't see the relationship between the two things, but it was more like, because of you, I have to heal myself so that I don't do this, right? Like there wasn't a lot of so there wasn't a lot of like, this is spilling into my life and this is what, you know, it was more like, this is who I am. It was so concrete. It was so like final, you know? So I always wanted that to go away. Like I always wanted to feel better.
Like when all of that was done and everybody went to bed and you were just by yourself, how did you feel at the end of those?
Like I just would feel like it's not worth it. Like it's not worth it. Like it's just, there's too many layers. There's too much going on. Like it's not worth it. That is probably at the end of all of them. I like to the point where physically I want to jump out of my skin level of just wanting to detach from it. That was kind of where it was. It was a lot of just like, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? Because to be honest, because I have a daughter, that was never an option for me. Just calling it quits from this physical realm was not an option since I had my daughter. For better or for worse, right? Because then I felt trapped and stuck. Like now I don't even have an option. Now I can't even get out if I wanted to.
Yeah. And the thoughts are still there. So for me,
The
it was
thoughts-
very intrusive all the time. And
Yes.
yet, so I understand that stuck feeling. Holy crap. Yeah. So that's what you mean by, I want to feel better. Like I would like to relieve myself of some of that.
Yeah, like I would like to enjoy this life. And then furthermore, I would like to stop putting myself in situations and contributing situations that make me not enjoy life. Like it was like I was already having a hard time enjoying life based upon what I had been through growing up. And then here I am reliving these patterns.
Yeah.
And like, I'm just like, what's going on? Like, you know, like it was just this constant, it was almost like the same scenarios played out, or the same situations played out in different scenarios all throughout my life. So feeling better looked different at different times. Sometimes feeling better was getting out of a relationship. Sometimes feeling better was stop doing this substance. Sometimes feeling better was stop doing this behavior, but it was always like something outside of myself, you know?
Outside of yourself. So you could still see the cycle of the same emotions, because we want to vet how we're living life through. What am I thinking? How am I feeling? And what am I doing or not doing? And you are a doer like I am. So we spend probably a lot of time bypassing even maybe constructive thinking, and definitely bypassing feeling. And we just go straight to doing. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
At the time that like I was taking these trainings, I was still in a place where I was still in a place where I hadn't looked inside for that, for that next thing, right? So I was like, okay, maybe this is the thing that's going to heal me. Maybe this is what I need to do, right? So it was like, it was kind of just like another to do. But of course, like doing things matters as well, right? It's not doing things. So I always knew that I wanted to do it, and I always was I guess willing to at least consider doing it, but was I willing to actually make the choice in every choice? You know, was I make all those consecutive choices leading to the big changes? But I always wanted to do that. So there was no really like aha moment as far as like, oh, I need to be practicing this.
So what was it? Miss Collector of Trainings and Doer. So what was it? Why do you feel better? Number one, because I mean, it would be pointless for us to go on any further if you didn't feel better. So number one, do you feel better? Number two, how do you know you feel better? And then number three, like walk us through kind of your process or what you've been focusing on in order for this feeling to occur.
So I definitely feel better. Does that mean I'm all better now? No, but I feel better relatively, which significantly better. So, and what that means for me is like, I picture this wedge, like literally this is what I picture as a wedge. And it's like, I finally was able to wedge something between these different experiences that I was having in my life, just like offering just a little bit of space. And even in the moments where that space doesn't offer a solution or a changed behavior or anything, it still offers me a chance to just see it, like just a chance to just be like, oh, that's not all one big story. Those are three different stories, because now I can see there's a wedge between each one. And, you know, and then in like, I guess, small scale, my mindfulness practice, that's like my thoughts, like putting a wedge between each thought and emotion and being able to see like, hey, that wasn't one big thought. Those were 10 different thoughts that you weren't present for. So you weren't able to see where one thought ended and another thought started. So it's like this space between them. And like I said, even when that space doesn't lead to a solution or like a changed behavior, which I kind of went in like beginning of my practice, it really wasn't like, it was just simply that space. That's all it was. It was like, I was still in the same roller coaster, like, but it was that space. And then I kind of just held tight, like, okay, I feel like maybe there's something to work with here, maybe, you know, and now in that space, there are solutions, or at least different roads to take. There are choices, there is intention, there is like, do I really want this to be my thought for the day, right? Do I
Yeah.
really want this to be my behavior? Yeah, so it's grown that place now, but it didn't start there. It started with just like doing it because I needed to do it, because I was desperate and I was rock bottom and I didn't have another option. And I wanted to do things like I could understand the research. I can understand all of that, you know, so just do it. Like I did a lot of other things, right? So in the beginning, my practice looked like, I would almost say non-existent, but I don't say that because I still showed up. Like I still showed up and I did the practice with you when you would make us, you know, like, so it wasn't non-existence. My own internal motivation and, you know, my own individual practice by myself wasn't really like there. Except when I was desperate and when I was feeling that jump out of my skin, I need to do something so I stay alive through this emotion. Then I would YouTube something to like as a desperate measure, so that I don't go do drugs, so that I don't leave, so that I don't do something, I don't put a permanent, you know, action on a temporary emotion.
So you used it as an intervention at the beginning. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like not just an intervention, like not just a, like, oh, I'm starting to feel junk. Let me, like, it was like my last resort. Like, and so that was how it started. And then showing up and doing it, even though I know you're gonna make us do it, I still showed up and I was like, okay, whatever, I'll do it with them, right?
Yeah.
That was it at first. So the moment, I guess this is kind of the moment, but the most monumental part of my practice was, I wish I knew what led me to make this decision. I really don't know. I might have it journaled somewhere, but at one point I committed out of the blue to do 20 minutes a day for eight weeks.
Yep.
Mind you, I had never sat for a 20-minute meditation by myself. Actually, I'd never sat for a 20-minute meditation because you've never done that with us. And
nope.
I had at that point, sitting for 20 minutes was unthinkable. I was like a 3 to maybe 5 minute. I'd put on a 10-minute YouTube meditation and then I'd like talk myself out of it by like minute 4 or 5, and then I'd look at the clock and be like, it's only been 6 minutes, like I'm done, you know, like that was literally my pattern. And I remember, like, I can literally picture exactly where I was in my living room when I was like 20, and I was like, just put it on. If you don't sit for the whole 20 minutes, then fine. Don't sit for the whole 20 minutes. That's fine. But just put it on. And I did. And I sat for the whole 20 minutes. And I was like, I'm doing this every day. Like, I'm going to do it, you know? And anyway, so that was, and I actually journaled my experience through those 8 weeks because I was mind blown. And I'm a hard cookie to crack. Like, I am not like, but the amount of just, I don't know, the level of change that I could feel in my body and in my experience just from implementing that through those 8 weeks was astonishing. But this was on October 12th. I said, today marks 3 weeks of daily practice with 1 day missed in formal practice. I sat for 30 minutes once and now craving 20 minutes more than once a day. Not all butterflies and rainbows, but more of those than before, and the storms seem to be finding distance.
Wow. Wow. So this really created something different for you in your journey. So the first part of your journey was about kind of figuring out ways to survive those dark, heavy moments.
Yes.
And then by this time, you had already gone through facilitators training.
Mm-hmm.
You were already at the first annual recap meeting training. And then you decided to embark on that. So what has life been like since that moment?
of the
Since that 8-week challenge? Because I mean, that's not to assume that you've been continuously practicing for 20 minutes a day, but what
right.
has that done for you?
Um, well, the 100% the changes that were experienced in that practice have stayed, right? There's like, I don't know, I was going to say like residual benefits that continue, even though that consistent practice was for that amount of time. It's not like, okay, well, you're not doing it anymore, so it's gone. It's like I continue to, and I've done, like, now 20 minutes is my go-to, like, for the mornings, right? It's not as strict as it was for those 8 weeks, and I do like have a desire to do another 8 weeks, but nonetheless I can sit for 20 minutes very regularly. um
And this from a woman who was just like, I can't do 60 seconds.
and that's like legit, like I cannot stress that enough, because I was I'm like, jump out of your skin. I've said that like 6 times already in this short
Yeah.
video, but that's how it felt. It felt like my brain wanted to do everything in its power to get me up and moving.
Yeah.
And also it's important to note that even when I did do it, it's like, to actually be in my body was a whole different thing. It was like, okay, yeah, I can sit and stay and like I can like witness, but really I'm just thinking about my thoughts and thinking about what I should, like that.
Yeah.
But it's like it took that level of practice to get to an increased level of practice, right? So all I was looking for when I would say that was somebody to say, yeah, you can't, so don't. Like, there's no other, like, it's not like we're looking for a solution. I wasn't looking for a solution. I wasn't saying I can't for somebody to tell me how I can. I was saying I can't for somebody to co-sign my BS and
Yes.
tell me it's okay to stay stuck in my shit.
What of the forgiveness steps do you remember going, this feels good, or let me lean into this, or did it give you another insight into yourself? Anything like that happen?
So the first time I did it was definitely a little bit more like, oh yeah, I know this. Of course, you did. I know my story. I know, I mean, I didn't know the names from, like, I didn't know revenge fantasy and stuff, but I wasn't like, it wasn't super hard for me. Actually, it was hard for me to get to figure out what they were. But once I did, it was like, oh yeah, I see this. Yeah, I see those thoughts, That was
Mhm.
the first time. The first time was a little very like, I guess, surface in a sense, is much more doing. Um, the second time, which was the facilitators meeting, was I had went through a very hard time in my relationship right before that. Like, I literally cried my entire way to Kohala that day, or to Kauai High that day. Feeling like a wreck, and so typical of me, because I felt like like everything is always so chaotic for me, so like, and I'm just this fake, that literally this is my story, right? I'm this, like, I'm just pretending to be this professional. I'm really not. I'm really just this chaotic, or this girl who lives in this chaotic world, who can't even make a relationship work, or do these things. But anyway, that meeting came and found me broken, and that was how I was able to really connect with it, because I dragged myself there because I do things, because I needed to do it, because I
Yeah.
wanted to be a facilitator, because I wanted more things for my resume, and I wanted to have more things to practice with my clients. um but if I had it my way, I would have had it any other time. Like, I would have rescheduled it, right? If it was something you could reschedule to not find you when you're broken, that was what I would have done with that. But that ended up being the catalyst to, like, be there. And so, sorry, but so then in that meeting, it was, I think it was the revenge fantasies, actually. Like, I was already broke. I don't really cry too much. But I had cried my whole way there, and
Yeah.
I was already like on the verge of tears, just in general. So I already knew that I was going to cry in front of people, but to open up to that level, and then be heard and then be there what was an experience I hadn't, because it's like maybe I've been around people who are willing to hear me, but I wasn't willing to talk, right? And then maybe I've been open to talk to people, but they're not around. So it's like that had been my life. So for this particular whatever happened, it was a mixture of being that the way the stars aligned that day, I was broken. And I mean, I'm always kind of broken, but I was like really broken that day. And I think there was a moment where I was like, yeah, like I was heard. Like I said, I shared things in that setting that I have never spoken out loud to anybody. So it was like, there was just something that happened there. So
How did it feel?
very scary. Like in the moment that it was happening, it felt good. And then immediately, it felt, yeah, I don't know that I had enough awareness to really say what I was feeling, but I know that if I felt heard, and I know that there was a level of being held that I felt. But then it was like immediately after that, I was like, oh no, what did I share? And like, what do they think? And I just remember all of those,
Yeah.
but the thing is that I got that glimpse and I was like, how do I just stay in that place? Right? How do I just like stop coming back to this place where everybody hates you and nobody, like you are all these things, this like story, right? Stop coming back to that place already, because it's not helping you, like.
So when did this happen? When did that happen? Or is it still happening? So then what? You got this glimpse, and then what?
I and then I just worked to find that, to be in my body and in my life a little bit more, so I could at least recognize when that was happening.
Mm-hmm.
And
then it wasn't too long, maybe it was several months, I don't really remember when, that you reached out to me and asked me about working one-on-one.
I want to say that was like, because that was last year.
Mm-hmm.
So
girl,
yeah.
we're only just into 2022. Yes.
I don't know what I'm thinking. So yes, that was in like June or something or in November and whatever.
Yeah.
But I know that the biggest thing was the 8 weeks. I know that was the biggest thing that gave me the tools to navigate other things, other challenges because of course I had set up, in my relationship, the patterns that not just me by myself, but that's all I have control over. So that's all I care about,
Mm-hmm.
But I had created this environment of this certain way of interacting where it was like, it was just like, I in a sense, I manipulate, I please, I'm a people pleaser, right? Like I people please, and then I manipulate. I'm like, well, if you're not going to do it this way, then you should, like whatever. And I had like set up this type of way to have a relationship. So then even after my practice, it was like, even though I had all these awarenesses, it's like, you're still in that relationship. You're still in that. So now how do you take all of these ahas and these moments and these wedges and this space and this awareness and apply it to your life? So what came to my mind when you're asking that is the attitudinal healing, the intention, the attention, and that it really came down to, there was actually another rock bottom in my relationship that I got to. That was right when I reached out for help from you. And that was a really hard meeting, because it was basically like, yeah, it was like, no, or that was a time for me that it was like, if you want this, you have to do it. Like, if you truly say, right, and your intention is to heal and feel better and have a healthy relationship with your partner and with your daughter and in with yourself and with the people around you. Like that was my intention, is just to love the way I wanted to love people.
Yeah.
Then it's not just there. It doesn't just stop there. And that's kind of where it was stopping in a sense. And because it was just like, well, I'm good. I'm a good person. And I know all these things. Like I know all these things about trauma and I know all these things about my past. So isn't that enough? Like, isn't that
Mhm.
enough just for this to work and
Yeah.
for us to work?
And the answer is no, it's not enough.
The answer was no, it's not enough. So, um, oh, I know co-facilitate, no, I like observed one of the other, one of your workshops. So that was kind of like I got to go through the process again of your mindful forgiveness. So I know that that was another thing. And as I was doing that, that was actually, okay, sorry, I'm like realizing it. So that I was observing your thing as I was doing the 8 weeks mindfulness practice.
Mm.
As I was going through this tornado in my relationship, or this, if actually it didn't have to be a tornado. I experienced it as a tornado, but it really was just transition. And if you want to feel better, if there's changes you want to make in your life and what you're doing right now is not quite cutting it, then just do it. It's just do it. Just sit, just do it. Um, yeah, that's my biggest piece of advice, is that like, look at it like maybe if you're everything you're doing is fine and it's perfect and you don't need any changes, then who am I to tell you have to sit and do it, right?
Right. Right.
But if you want to make a change and you need changes in your life, and what you're doing right now isn't quite cutting it, then that is a tool you have you can use it at any time, so just do it wherever and however that looks like for you. um that's my biggest advice when it comes to a mindfulness practice, and just in general with this work would really just be like find your community and plug into them, and show up and know your patterns so that you can know your patterns and know where you want to change them.
Yeah.
And then with that mindfulness practice, that'll offer more awareness and more ability to adjust those patterns. But it just starts with like an overarching, just like, is there change I want to make in my life?
What's next for you?
So many things. um what's next for me? I'm continuing to network and build a community so that we can just continue to do this work, continue to do this work as individuals, as helpers, as clinicians. I want to help. I want to, reach out to other therapists like me who did all the things and expected to come out on the other side healed, but are realizing that that's not how it works, or not even therapists, but anybody who is wondering why their career is not making them as happy as it was supposed to when they embarked to do it, right? When they set a goal that when I get older, I want to be XYZ, and then now they're XYZ and they're wondering why there's no shooting stars and rainbows every day. I think those are the people that I personally want to talk to and network with and reach out and see if there's support we can offer, because I know that this world kind of, this society kind of gets us there, right? Gets us
Yes.
to think that it's like happiness is right around the corner, just do this and it's right there.
Yeah. So how do people find you? I've just heard you speak and I'm like, yeah, I'm that person. How do I connect with you? How do I find you? How can I learn more about you?
The best way, probably other than just calling me on the phone, is probably through Instagram or Facebook. My Instagram is Noelani Poliahu, and my Facebook is my name, Noelani Del Rosario.
Okay. Excellent. Well, thank you everybody for watching and listening, and we'll talk to you next time.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.